Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge again, and we've got another fixed blade. Haven't had one for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks already. This is a little fixed blade by TwoSun Knives. This is the TS247 with M390. It's a Wong design, full tang micarta handle scales, Kydex sheath. I've reviewed a few of their smaller knives like this in the past, and we're going to do it again. The long and short of it is, I got mine at White Mountain Knives, where you can get a discount of 10% with coupon code CCE. Unfortunately, they're out of stock right now, but they do have a notification link. You click on the orange Notify Me button, put your email address in and everything, and they will send you an email when it's back in stock. And you can get it that way. Amazon used to have a listing for this. It's sold out. There is a listing on AliExpress, and on their Black Friday sale, if this video gets out in time, probably won't. But I'm recording this on Sunday. You know, it's Cyber Monday tomorrow. This will probably come out on Cyber Monday. Who knows? The sale might be over. I think it's around 54 bucks at AliExpress. A little bit less if you get the Black Friday sale. White Mountain Knives listing is $54.99. You take off 10%. That makes it $49.49, which is about $67 Canadian for this knife. Is it worth this? Hey, I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to decide for yourself. Come on down to the tabletop with me. We'll take a good close look at it so you'll have all the information so that you'll be able to make that decision. Keep watching. Let's begin with a size comparison. This is just a little knife. That's a standard sort of size of a knife. You can see in my hand, that's pretty standard. And this, it's just a little knife. It's not very big at all. I am amazed though that I can get 3 fingers on there, and even if I pull it up right there, you can see the handle sticking out right there. I can get a secure 3-finger grip on this knife. And I tried whittling some wood and stuff. It actually worked fairly well. The handle's thick enough to be actually comfortable. And you can see it swells in the middle there, and then it swells this way as well. And it goes in right where those screws are. It's actually a useful knife. Of course, it's not a 4-finger grip or anything, but hey, that's not bad. Full tang, the steel goes all the way through the handle. So there you go. The handle scales are micarta. It's a coarse, burlap type micarta. Those handle scales are removable. I'll do that in a minute. And we've got a fairly straight spine, but it is a drop point right near the end here. And I know the light just kind of, if I hit it just right, it's kind of all washed out. So I'll try to keep the knife on such an angle that it doesn't just wash out on the video all the time. It's really tough to get excellent lighting. And, I've got studio lights. I've got one light over there. I've got another light over there. And I've got a light straight above us coming down. And then, of course, I've got the room lights and stuff. So I have enough light. It's just hard to get the right light. But I'm doing my best. Anyhow, the knife, the edge here, it's not all that big. It's about 2.5 inches in the blade. I'll do the exact specs later on. And then the handle is that's about 3. So about 2.5 and about 3 roughly, for those of you who, you don't want to watch any more than that now. There you go. What do we have? We've got actually a fairly thick slab of steel back here. It's M390. It's over 1/8 of an inch thick. We've got flats all over the place, so it's a great knife to sharpen on a guided sharpening system if you, clamp it onto something. So love that surface there. Satin finish, a nice saber grind on it. It's very thick, all the way up to about, halfway between the main bevel grind here, because you can see the swedge there, so it stays very thick until the last, less than 1/4 of an inch. That's when it starts to, dive down. So it's very thick right at the tip there. Thicker than is useful for a lot of tasks, but most of the knife here, is nice and thin. It's thin enough to be actually useful. It's not super thin, but it's roughly around 18 thousandths where my fingertips are right now. It's just more up here. We've got a sharpener's choil, which is totally adequate. It's plenty big enough. The plunge there is nice and quick so that the sharpener's choil doesn't have to be huge in order to be effective. Badging on the knife, well, the badging's a little bit big. It says M390 right there and then Wong design. I wish they would have just put that all up here on the flat. That would have been much preferred by me. On the other side, we have TwoSun, and the TwoSun is the same way. It's on the main bevel instead of on the flat where I would prefer it. Let's take the handle scales off, and I'll show you how those look. Oh, this is the wrong screwdriver. Let me get the correct screwdriver. There we go. Here's my T8 screwdriver. Let's see. Oh, I took off the wrong side. That's the pin. So there we go. There's the screw there. TwoSun always does really good quality screws, and this is no exception. And I need to stop looking at my camera monitor and keep my eyes on my hands. Okay, there's no skeletonizing in here. I thought there might be, but there's no skeletonizing in it. But yeah, that's all there is. Who knows? I might dye these. Probably something like black or something, or a really, really deep purple. Yeah, probably. So if it's too heavy for you, you're probably not going to be able to drill through that. That's just going to be hardened steel, and hardened steel is hard to drill through. So you'll probably just have to live with what you've got. But very simply made, good high quality screws, kind of like that. Before we do the measurements, there's a few more things about this knife. The balance point right there, so pretty good. Again, I'd like it a little bit more that way. That's okay. How well does it actually cut? I told you that, that it's thin and stuff, but it does. It cuts quite well. It's not a super piercer, but it cuts quite well. It slices quite well. It's whittles quite well, like I told you I was doing with that. Yeah, it holds up quite well. The extra grip from the texture here on the micarta is also helpful, along with all the swelling. The jimping on the spine of the blade right there, we've got like 6 lines milled into it. Wouldn't mind it if it went further. That would have been nice, but getting your thumb on there really does give extra purchase. So I'm happy with the jimping for the most part. The lanyard hole at the very back there, that does fit 550 paracord if you prepare the end just right to fit in there. And the placement for that hole is quite nice. So that's quite good. It's a well-made knife if you're looking for something small like this. Let's talk about the sheath for a minute. The main part of the sheath is quite nice. Clicks in, holds quite well. Nothing loose, nothing rattly. It's a good clip. A little bit of a spot right there for you because of the swell. It's easy to grab and then just sort of push off. Oh, went across the room a little bit, but that works, very well. So I'm happy with that. What I don't like, what I dislike tremendously, is this pocket clip loop thing. Now, I've reviewed other small TwoSun knives that have exactly this, and I totally dislike them because it's got very little retention. You've got your knife in here, and you go to pull this off of your belt, your sheath is coming along unless you, do the push-off thing and take it out. If you're pulling it all on this sheath, it's just going to come out. They really should have, in my opinion, instead of making it come, down and then back up and out, they should have taken this and turned it in on itself. So it's, turned around this way. That way, when you're pulling on it, it pulls on that hook and your sheath stays in place and your blade comes out. So bad design. Other options, well, I got this off of a knife. I forget exactly which knife that is, but you can buy these things separately at some knife supply stores as well. So you can do that, or do that and turn it into a little scout carry knife. That's an option, as long as your belt fits in there. You can get Ulti-Clip. you know, there's like 6 or I don't know how many different sizes of these that there are. And, you know, you could screw on the Alti clip and have that in place. You know, maybe way down here instead. You know, you choose where you're going to attach it. That's a really good system for holding on. I got this from Real Steel. This is similar in that it just has a slip away section, but it holds a little bit tighter. And of course it comes with, you know, different screws and mounting hardware. So there you go. A traditional one of these, no, you can't really use it. The holes don't line up. So you could only use this if you can create your own holes. Of course, this stuff's not hard to drill through, but you know, you have that step down section right there, and then you got that little hole in the middle. You'd have to modify it in order to use something like this, you know, with the sheath. Not fond of this at all. Now, some people have some skills with a heat gun. You could cut it to length and fold it around and do the loop thing. And a hairdryer, maybe not, is not enough heat. The other option is you can put it into a toaster oven, warm this stuff up like crazy. But you're going to have equipment available to form it around. If you just try to do it freehand, you know, with some gloves to resist burning yourself, you're going to make a mess of things. You need a form to form, you know, hot Kydex on. So that's pretty much covering what it is. Now let's do all the measurements. Let's start with the weights. The weight of the knife, 61 grams. That's about 2.15 ounces. The sheath here is 22 grams. That's 0.78 of an ounce. Together we've got 93 grams, which is 3.28 ounces. Sharpness from the factory, got a score of 110 best. That's tested 3 times. That's the average score, so that's quite sharp, sharper than average. Cutting edge length, 62.7 millimeters, 2.47 inches, so 2.5 inches of cutting. The blade length tipped to the closest spot on the micarta is 65.3 millimeters, 2.57 inches. The thickness of the blade steel, that is 3.36 millimeters, 0.132 of an inch. So like I said, over 1/8 of an inch. Now let's move that to the side there. The blade depth, that's this measurement, it's actually biggest right about where my fingers are right now. 18.5 millimeters, 0.729 of an inch. How thick is it behind the grind? Measured in 3 places, pretty much the 3 places where my fingers are now. So this doesn't count the very tip measurement because it's bigger. Pretty much where you cut. 0.46 millimeters, 18/1000ths of an inch. So I wish it could have been a little bit thinner. This is not a big, hard, heavy use kind of knife, and it could have been thinner. The grind angles, same kind of thing. The grind angles, this side's got an average of 19.2 degrees roughly. This side's got an average of 19 degrees, but it's been one of the best sharpened knives I've seen in a long time. Here it was 19.1, by the tip 18.8. That's 0.3 degrees of change. This side was 19.3, ended at 19.2, so that's 0.1 degree change. So it's well sharpened in terms of consistency of angle, and the angle choice is not bad. Although, again, this is not a big, heavy use, hard use knife. It's not going to be batoning or anything. I'd probably do it at 17.5 degrees per side, maybe a little bit less even. M390 can certainly handle, you know, being down at 15 degrees per side, no problem at all, and still be quite durable. But of course, the greater the angle, the more durable the edge is. The less of an angle, you know, the more fine the angle is, the more risk it is of having a little bit of damage to the edge. But for the purpose of this knife and the steel type, yeah, it can be quite shallow and be very, very handy as a small little, you know, backup kind of knife. The rest of the measurements. The handle length, that's the length of the micarta here, 74.9 millimeters, 2.95 inches. The thickest part of the handle, 14.4 millimeters, 0.567 of an inch. The greatest depth part within the grip area is 18.2 millimeters, 0.717 of an inch. The grip area between my thumbs here, 6.6 millimeters, 2.6 inches. And the absolute total length, 140 millimeters, 5.5 inches. My summary is, I like this knife and I recommend it, except for this belt loop. This belt loop really does, detract from this knife a fair bit, but the great thing is you can replace it with something else. Ulti-clip, especially in North America, is ubiquitous. You can find this just about anywhere. And in most other countries, you can order it and get it shipped in. So that's not a problem. And of course, you've got potentially a number of other options as well if you don't like that. It's well made. It looks good. It's a little bit plain. I wouldn't mind if they had different options for, the handle scales and stuff. Very useful. Okay, one of the other little bit cons is I wish that the badging wasn't on the bevels, but was like the main bevels, or it was on the flats or something. I mentioned that before too. So it's far from being a perfect knife, but it's very close to being a very good knife. If you're looking for something small like this, maybe you're looking for another gift. Unfortunately, the only place I found that has this in stock right now is AliExpress. They have 3 at the time of me recording this. So maybe they'll be all gone by the time you see this. Otherwise, you'll just have to leave your name at White Mountain Knives and wait for it to come back in stock. And of course, White Mountain Knives does have the best price, especially when you use my coupon code. Not all of the little knives by TwoSun are worthy of my recommendation. Some of them just aren't. But this is one of my favorite little fixed blades from TwoSun Knives. I'm very happy with this little knife. It's not some fantasy knife. Wong Design, he's done a really good work with this knife. It's a very useful knife. If I was keeping this knife, and I might, unfortunately, I have to sell most of what I review so that I can buy more knives. But if I was keeping this knife, I would probably grind these main bevels down a little bit to make it a little bit thinner at the edge. And especially down near the tip, I try to make that come to a little bit more of a tip that I can use for a little better puncturing. But if you get this sharp, it punctures okay. But it's a nice little knife. And, it's a little, whittler. You can take the pocket clip completely off and then just use the Kydex sheath and drop it in your pocket, because that's not that long. That's under 6 inches with the sheath in place. And so, yeah, it's not a big knife, and I like it. I like it quite a lot. Thank you to my supporters. Thank you for helping me out every single month. If you want to support the channel, I would very much appreciate it. Patreon.com/CCE, or click the join button down below, or you can do a one-time donation through buymeacoffee.com/cutting-edge and do it that way. If you are one of my monthly supporters, your name gets put into a random draw every single month, and you get to win one of the knives that I reviewed in the previous month, and it's a knife of your choice. I think that's great. So really, from the Patreon giving, I get very little money each month, because if I factor in the amount of the gift, some months I don't even break even. Most months I end up netting $10-15. So I'm doing it for myself, yes, to get a little bit more income, but really becoming a monthly supporter is more about, giving away freebies to people. And it's not quite a freebie because you're giving me a donation, but hey, you get a whole lot as a group from what I offer you. So I appreciate it a lot. And you get first dibs on all knife sales. 2 days, 48 hours of access to all my knife sales before anybody else gets a chance to buy anything. That's another good reason to become a supporter of the channel. So if you're one of the people who's watched this long, obviously you like what I'm doing here, and maybe it's for you. Maybe it's a really good fit. You decide for yourself. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.